Welcome in to the Punt and Pass podcast. I'm your host, Drew Butler, joined alongside my co-host, Jake Fromm. Be sure to follow us on social media at Punt and Pass on X and Instagram. I'm at Drew Butler. He is at From Jake, puntandpass.com, the number one destination for all things college football. Also, where our merchandise is. You've seen Jake Fromm rocking the new hat. Our buddy Jake Farmer down in Florida purchased one. I had a couple of people text me, Jake, so the orders are starting to come in. If you want some Punt and Pass merch, head on over to puntandpass.com or hit me up in my DMs at Drew Butler on X and Instagram. So, look, we're in the thick of college football season now. The NFL season is in full swing as well. It's week 3. We'll get to that in just a second, but the Detroit Lions are 1-0. Give us a little inside the life of an NFL quarterback after a big win.
Yeah, I mean, when you're in the NFL and you have 18 weeks, it's a team game schedule now. It's really back to work, man. Hey, it's great, good job, and especially on the first one, like the teams make the biggest transition between the first game and the second game. So trying to figure out what we did well, what we did wrong, how can we fix these things, and go out and try to put a better product out there. So really in the NFL, the routine is the routine. Like guys stick to it, coaches stick to it. Just back to work, man. Back to another week.
How true, and look, I'm down here in Atlanta, obviously, as you may or may not know. I'm on 92.9 The Game, which is the Falcons' flagship station on Odyssey. So shout out to Odyssey, which is also what our podcast is distributed on now. But Falcons didn't look great in week 1, and now it's like total overreaction catastrophe. Half the fan base is ready to crumple up the 2024 season, throw it in the trash can. I feel like the NFL specifically, Jake, is the one league where week 1 matters so much in the eyes of like everybody else. The media overreacts, the fans overreact, but it is an 18-week season. I mean, Matt Ryan came out and said, chill. Aaron Rodgers, the Jets lost on Monday night. He was like, hey, just relax. It's a long season, man.
Yeah, it's a long season. And then from the guys who were here in Detroit 2 years ago, like they were 1-6 2 years ago at one point, finished the season at 9-8. So, I mean, in the NFL, man, it's any given week, just show up and you a few plays and you win a game. Like, man, the margins are so small, and you can go on some runs, and you could also, fall down the mountain and go down some bad streaks. So just kind of depends on the week to week, what kind of leadership you got and the good guys around you. But any Sunday is anybody's Sunday.
That's why it's the best product in all of sports. Like, I love college football. Jake, you love college football. Everybody listening, obviously a college football fan. But the NFL, 85% of every game, 85% of all games literally comes down to the last play. It's phenomenal. Jake, you said it. The margins are so small, and the margins are also pretty small, but the rewards can be massive over at Prize Picks. Okay. Prize Picks is the presenting sponsor of this episode of the Punt and Pass podcast. So shout out to Prize Picks. They've been an awesome partner for years. And what is Prize Picks? Well, it's the largest independently owned daily fantasy sports platform in North America. You already know that by now. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play DFS. It's just you against the numbers. That's the best part. Instead of having to battle thousands of other players, including pros and sharks and bots, it's just you versus the numbers. You pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. So yes, I have lost my first few entries by small margins, but I'm chasing those big rewards. I've got a great 2-pick special coming up in the middle of the show. It's a quarterback special. I'm going to my guys, right? I need the team leaders, the guys I can rely on to let the winnings roll in. But the benefit of Prize Picks is you can do cross-sport entries as well. Major League Baseball is going on. We all know that. NFL, college football, obviously. Golf is still going on. Head on over to Prize Picks. The options are endless. You can 10x your money. All you have to do, pick 2 to 6 players on their stat projections. Guess if they'll go more or less. And when you use the promo code PUNT, P-U-N-T, PUNT, you get an instant $50 after you play your first $5 entry. So how about that? I mean, look at what we've been doing for you, what Prize Picks does for our community. Thank you, Prize Picks. Use the promo code PUNT when you sign up for Prize Picks and download the app. You get an instant $50 when you play your first $5 entry. We had a lot of people sign up last week, so thank you so much. Punt is the way to go. All right, let's jump right into 3 and out. First down. Let's head to Lexington. Let's talk about what's going on with the Georgia
Let's
Bulldogs.
talk about the Dogs. Let's do it.
Let's talk about the Dogs. They are heading up to Lexington this week, Jake, and they will be seeing some familiar faces. Yes, everybody knows about Brock Vandegrift. Brock transferred from Georgia, had a great career at Georgia by all measures. There's no doubt about it. Probably didn't get as much playing time as he wanted, but saw a lot of success. He's now the starting quarterback at Kentucky. And I think one thing that a lot of people miss, Jake, is that former starting linebacker at Georgia, Jamon Dumas Johnson, is now the starting linebacker at Kentucky. So 2 guys who were in Georgia's program for a long time, now with the Wildcats in Kentucky. Usually this game historically has been played later in the season. If you go up to Lexington in November, it can be very cold. It can be a little bit slick. It's just different climate up there. This is the new norm for college football, Jake. Transfers, guys who were on your squad, now they can play for your rival in conference, not have to sit out. My question to you, are there any notable advantages or disadvantages? It's an interesting trend. Did you ever have to go up against one of your former teammates as a transfer?
To me, if there's an edge given in this, it's obviously with Kirby and with that defense who have gone against Brock week in and week out at practice. They're going back through the tapes, through the receipts. Hey, which blitz did we get him on, 2 years ago? Like, we know what he's been coached to do. We know what what he thinks, how he operates. So there's a lot of advantages with Kirby's side of things. And there's also some familiarity, with Brock as well, seeing the defense, having eyes on it, knowing the guys, know what they do well. So it's kind of a give and take on both sides. And it's kind of whoever has the chess piece last kind of gets the last laugh.
So as a quarterback, obviously the lion's share of Brock's development into the player he is today, from like a fundamental standpoint, came from the coaching staff at Georgia. How hard is it to maybe change some of those things in a matter of 8 months since he's been at Kentucky? Like, these are learned traits that in the heat of battle, you probably resort back to. I don't know if there is anything that Kentucky would teach that's certainly different from what he's learned in Athens.
Yeah, it's not going to be astronomically different at all. And especially, too, because he's been trained on these things, because there's so much good on good done at Georgia, 1 offense versus 2 defense, 2 offense versus 2 defense. So, like, it's the same stuff that he's going to be seeing, same stuff that applies, same kind of coverages, different matches, different fronts, all these different things. And what he's being coached to do at Kentucky, it's not going to be that different where it really means a whole lot, but there could be a different check here or something, like hey, versus this pressure, we're going to get to this, but actually, hey, I actually remember, 2 years ago in practice, we did this. So there's all those things that come up, but he's had plenty of reps. He's the starter there. He's gotten the reps. This is not something we should be really too worried about.
On the flip side, Jamon Dumas Johnson, obviously having been coached by Glenn Schumann for all those years, Will Muschamp still involved in the program heavily at Georgia. How much is he helping? Is the offensive staff at Kentucky going to him, asking him questions? I mean, to me, it's just fascinating because these guys were in the locker room less than a year ago. They've been coached by all these coaches. Like, of course, they're smart enough to understand tendencies, favorite packages, blitzes on 3rd and long, 3rd and short, red zone. Like, do they retain that much information? Is there that much information turnover from year to year where Georgia's coaching staff doesn't have to worry about that?
Yeah, I mean, from what I understand from Jamon, he's a very, very smart, very instinctive player. So I'm sure there's a lot really that he has retained and knows and knows by heart. But as far as whether or not the Kentucky coaching staff wants that information, I have no idea. Really, I've been places in the NFL where, like, hey, do you have any insight on this? And I've been places where they don't even ask you. So it just kind of depends on the coaches and whether or not they want that information. And it's just kind of a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, well, here's what it comes down to. And obviously, we'll break down the game when we go inside the 5 in a couple of minutes. A lot of times you could talk about the X's and the O's, but most times it comes down to the Jimmies and the Joes, and Kentucky does not have that. Not even close to what Georgia has. That was evidenced last week by their horrendous performance against South Carolina. Certainly, they will look better than that. I mean, they have to. They were horrible a week ago. Georgia's going to come in there, do what they do. But should be a good day for the Dogs. We'll touch on that in just a bit. All right, let's go to second down. And this is one where I kind of have to put my hand up, Jake, and just be like, hey, I might have been off base in my preseason analysis of a specific football team. And this football team is one that we talked about on Monday's podcast. It's the Texas Longhorns. Texas dismantled Michigan. We already talked about that. Quinn Ewers looks great. They got tons of skill positions. They lost their 2 starting running backs during camp. I thought that would certainly have them kind of take a step back. But now the national media is fawning over the Texas Longhorns. I saw Greg McElroy on his Inside College Football podcast. He put them right up there with Georgia, said their lines of scrimmage are really solid. Look at what they're capable of. Steve Sarkisian's grown as a head coach. But one that even caught my attention, even more than Greg McElroy, is a guy who I highly respect. I respect Greg as well. But Josh Pate. Josh Pate, 247 Sports. Josh is a legend. He is certainly a leading voice and a tastemaker within the college football media landscape. He told Barrett Sallee, Barrett, a great Atlanta guy, on Barrett's Smothered and Covered podcast. He said Texas is world class. Listen to this.
You know who Texas has. You know who Michigan has. You know who Michigan lost. And so Michigan is not some poverty program. Now, physically, they're an impressive team. Texas is world class. Texas is probably the biggest team, pound for pound, biggest athletic team, pound for pound in the country. Like Barrett, I'm telling you, I'd put them up against Georgia, Bama, Ohio State. Those rosters favor very comparably. And so I was so amused last week leading up to this game when people did their breakdowns and they said, now, if Michigan can turn this game into a fight, then they've got a chance. And I can tell you, confidently can tell you, folks around the Texas program not only felt confident if that were the case, they wanted that to be the case. Like they relished the idea of going in there and fighting Michigan because they're bigger, they're faster, they're stronger, they're deeper, they're 7 deep at wide receiver. They got 3 quarterbacks better than Michigan's starter. So who was going to bully who?
Okay, so, he references people in the media saying Michigan's going to turn it into a fight. Coach, that's exactly what I said. So, I was dead ass wrong in my analysis, but we talked about overreactions in the NFL. Is this an overreaction to Texas thumping Michigan? Because I could easily bring up a lot of question marks around Michigan.
I don't think so. I don't think Michigan.
And to give you credit, you were all on Texas last week. So
yeah, I think Texas is for real. I think they're going to be a good football team, and I think they're going to cause whoever they draw in this playoff, because they're going to make the playoff, they're going to cause them problems. However, we know Michigan is not the same team they were last year, just like, was stated. But what does that mean? How much better can Texas get? I think the sky is the limit for this team. When I think about this team, I think back to Alabama of years past. What made them so good were the trenches. Everybody's got skill guys. Now they have 3 talented quarterbacks, like was mentioned, that are better than Michigan's starter. But it's about the trenches. It's about the defensive line. It's about the offensive line. And when you get those guys who can take over a football game, it does not matter how good of weapons you got, how good the receiver is, how good this safety, this DB is. If you can't operate in the pocket or, have any running the ball success, if you can't do that, you cannot last in college football, can't last in the SEC, and you're not going to win very many football games.
Yeah, you bring up a great point. It all starts in the trenches. And I mean, that has been a hallmark of Kirby Smart's Georgia teams that have made it deep, won national championships. The offensive line is stellar. A lot of those guys go to the NFL. The defensive line is completely stacked. Like that is a hallmark. They go to national championship games. You can run the ball. You can stop the run. You can rush the passer. You can protect the passer. Everything starts in the trenches. As simpleton as that sounds, as annoying as you as a listener might think, like, oh my God, that's so easy, anybody can say that. It's just the truth. Jake Fromm just told you that. It's the same in every level of football. However, I'm not knocking Texas when I say this. But how many times in the past have teams been, quote, on the level of, or pound for pound just as good? I mean, I can tell you 5 different scenarios when Georgia was considered on par with Alabama and the Dogs are ready to take on the Crimson Tide, and then they roll their helmets out there and get their asses kicked. So I just don't know if Texas, I don't know if Michigan is the barometer for everybody to be throwing bouquets at the Texas Longhorns. Yes, I know they made the college football playoff last year. I get that, right? They had a great season. But if you want to be, quote unquote, world class, as Josh Pate says, if you want to be one of the best, as Greg McElroy says, well, then you got to beat the best. And they have not done that yet. I'm not saying that they can't. I'm looking at their schedule right now. Look, they're going to be 5-0 in the blink of an eye. They've got Texas San Antonio this week, dub. Louisiana Monroe, dub. Mississippi State, dub. Those are all home games. Then they get a bye week October 5th. Then they play Oklahoma, Red River rivalry. Of course, it's an SEC game now. That's in Dallas. And then they turn around quickly and welcome in Georgia to Austin. We mentioned it on Monday's podcast, setting up to be a 1 versus 2 matchup. And that right there, that will be the barometer, because I can't tell you, and Jake, you've played in these games, so I'd love you to impart some wisdom here. When it comes time, you could be 5-0, 6-0, beat your rival, have a bye week 2 weeks prior. When it comes time, and I'm not just saying this about Georgia, it could be Ohio State. Miami looks good. There's plenty of teams that are in that conversation. But since everybody is comparing them to Georgia, Georgia will be ready. That will be a heavyweight fight. And I've seen plenty of boxing matches where the up-and-comer gets knocked down pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just glad that we don't have to speculate on this whole issue for that much longer, right? It's going to happen. It's set in stone. And, I really don't think for Texas it matters whether it's on the road or at home, because they're just as good on the road as they are at home. So I'm excited to see it happen. It's going to be a great game. The gloves are going to come off. I mean, these two heavyweights are just going to absolutely go pound for pound. I really think this is a 4-quarter game in the making and going to be really good. Yeah, I really do.
Yeah, that's going to be an awesome one. And look, I don't know what it is. Like, something deep inside me when these games come up, like last week, Texas, Michigan, I was like, I don't know. I think Michigan keeps it close. Last year, Alabama, Texas. Everybody was saying Texas is going to beat them by double digits in Bryant-Denny. I was like, I don't know. I think Alabama. Look, I've been dead wrong on Texas. So if you're a Texas fan, maybe you want me to keep fading them, and results will continue to roll in. So who knows? We'll see. But that's just my thoughts. I appreciate your wisdom there, Jake. Hey, let's go to third down because, again, I think you might, as a quarterback, be able to bring some great insight here. Auburn quarterback Peyton Thorne made a couple of headlines. Of course, Auburn took a terrible L to ACC Cal Berkeley. That's right. The California Bears came into Auburn on the Plains, whooped up Auburn inside Jordan-Hare, and Peyton Thorne was on a podcast or a radio show. I forget what it was. And he said fans and or sports bettors send him Venmo requests for money after losses. Get a load of this.
You've grown up in this. You're a smart enough guy to know that you don't play quarterback at a place like Auburn in an SEC school and don't get some criticism for it. How do you deal with that? How do you drown it out? I mean, what do you do with that?
Yeah, obviously everyone says that, you just don't listen to it and all that. And sometimes that's easier said than done because in today's world, they come at you in all different angles. You hear it verbally. That's probably the least one. But, just walking down the street, you hear it sometimes. And then obviously the social media is they hit you on Venmo, all types of stuff. So, you just have to block it out. You have to go back to where your foundation is in your life. And for me, that's my faith and my family. And so just doing that, but also just keep the focus on what's next. Like I said, there's nothing we can do about Saturday, but I can handle today.
They're coming after your Venmo, Peyton?
Explain that one to me. I've never heard that. Like, they send you cash?
No.
They're definitely not sending cash. Okay. It's funny when they lose money, they want the money back, but when they win money on a parlay, no one's ever sending any money. So
I see now. Yeah. What a dumb question by me. I understand now. Okay.
That's pretty good. Good humor from Peyton Thorne there by saying, hey, when I lose a game, they're requesting me for cash. But when they win a parlay and win big money, he doesn't get any money provided back to him. So that was on the next round. I guess it's a show. Spencer, our producers, tell me right now. Is it Jim Dunaway, the host? That guy's got amazing pipes. He's got a great voice. I don't know who that is. Jim Dunaway and Ryan Brown. So look, this is, again, falling into the new era of college football. Sports betting is so prevalent now. It's everywhere on every commercial. College kids specifically, they are very active in that realm. But yeah, getting hit up on Venmo for money after a loss, probably not too fun. Jake, what's the craziest thing that's happened to you as a quarterback?
No, I've definitely had that a few times. You definitely get a few crazy, DMs here and there. Everybody's brave, with the Twitter fingers, with the texting
keyboard
fingers.
warriors.
Oh yeah, they're great. Behind the screen, but like you said, the verbal altercations really don't happen all that often, right? But I think it's great that he's making light of a situation. However, I do believe that is an embarrassing loss. Not only have you lost to Cal once, but Cal twice. And so I'm not to say throwing this on Peyton Thorne at all, because I think he's a good dude, and got to know him a little bit through Tyler. But I just from a program standpoint, Hugh Freeze, hey, we got to win those games.
You have to, right? And obviously the quarterback is going to be the guy that catches the brunt of all the heat from the fans. You're the one who's out there. You're probably the most accessible from a social media standpoint as well. I mean, come on, the Venmo request, that is a little crazy. Obviously, those are easy to kind of just delete. Maybe use some sort of alias for your Venmo name. If you're a high profile quarterback in college, that would be my piece of advice. I don't even know if that's possible or if you can do that. But look, with high standards come high expectations. Is that the saying, Jake? I don't know. You said it though. The verbal in-person altercations, I don't think those happen very much. If you're walking to class and somebody's driving in their truck and feels brave and screams something at you as they're driving by, maybe that is a situation that happens. But Spencer tells me with great power comes great responsibility. That's what I'm getting at. So
name that movie. Spider-Man.
Is that Gladiator?
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
Right?
I mean, I don't know.
I hope
I think
so.
I've seen the first Spider-Man.
I was so
Tobey
confident
Maguire 15 years ago, I think. I don't know.
Yeah.
Correct. Spider-Man's. Spencer said that you're correct, Jake. So there
Love
you go.
that. Thank you.
Right. Yeah, so that's Peyton Thorne. I mean, look, you're a quarterback in the SEC. Deal with it, I guess. That's kind of my personal advice. But that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I like that too. And I love throwing jokes and throwing humor at it. Man, life's too short.
Yeah, and look, I'm a punter. I'll just say this: quarterback, you get the red carpet rolled out for you. You get all the money. You get the cars. You get the women. Deal with it. That's my 2 cents.
Fair. Totally.
Speaking
fair.
of the SEC, we got a pretty big weekend coming up on deck. College game days in Columbia for the LSU South Carolina game. Alabama heads up to Madison, Wisconsin for a little tilt with the Badgers. That's at noon on Big Noon kickoff. Number 24, Boston College heads to the 6th ranked Missouri Tigers. That is a fascinating matchup. We are going to be getting to that in just a second. But before we do, let's jump into our Prize Picks entry of the week. Be sure to download the Prize Picks app. Use the promo code PUNT, P-U-N-T, PUNT. When you use the promo code PUNT, you get an instant $50 when you play your first $5 entry. And get this, you don't even have to win that $5 entry. Play a $5 entry, instantly get $50 when you use the promo code PUNT. All you have to do is pick 2 to 6 players, predict that they will go more or less than their stat projections, watch the winnings roll in. You can do cross-board entries. Prize Picks is the best daily fantasy platform in the world, a great partner of Punt and Pass. Download the Prize Picks app. Use the promo code PUNT. All right, I'm not off to a good start. I can level set with our listeners. I take responsibility, Jake. You've known me long enough to know I try to be as transparent as possible. I try to communicate very well. I put my hand up. It's my fault, Coach. Coaches hate excuses. It's my fault.
One thing I know about this with you, Drew, is you're streaky, right? Hey, when you're cold, you're cold. Hey, but when you're hot, buddy, you're hot. And you know what? This week is the week. So I can't wait to hear it.
And you know what? All the guys who I play golf with, they say the same thing, because when one birdie comes, a lot more are right behind it. All right, let's start with this. Get into the Prize Picks app immediately because they're running a promo on our boy Carson Beck. That's right. They have dropped down his passing yards over, under, more or less. Right now, you can get Carson Beck at 212.5 passing yards this weekend against Kentucky. Are you kidding me? That is like a complete freebie. Get in now. I don't know how long this is going to last. I'll text the guys over at Pies Picks. I'll say it's part of my QB special 2-pick entry for week 3 of Punt and Pass. Leave it up as long as you can. If you're hearing this now, pull up your Prize Picks app or download the app. Use the promo code PUNT. Take Carson Beck more than 212.5 passing yards. That's a no-brainer, okay? That should at least get us one green check mark. The next quarterback I'm bringing into the fold is leading quite possibly the most prolific offense in the country, for sure the SEC. That's Jackson Dart at Ole Miss. Ole Miss, I think their point differential through the first 2 weeks is like tied for the largest in SEC history. It's like plus 125 through the first 2 weeks. It's crazy. Right now at Prize Picks, Jackson Dart against Wake Forest, more than 1.5 passing touchdowns.
Wow.
That's it. Like, that almost seems like,
what?
Like, am I too much of a simpleton right now, or did I crack the code on Prize Picks? That's my 2-pick entry. You have to get in quick. If it's not there anymore, send me a DM at Drew Butler. I will call Adam Wexler, the founder of Prize Picks, and say, what are you doing to my people? Carson Beck, more than 212.5 passing yards. I hope it's still there by the time you hear this. Jackson Dart, more than 1.5 passing touchdowns. That's it. We cashed. Pays 2x. $25 wins $50. Happy Saturday,
Coach.
My gift to you.
That's great. You know, when I was in college, my offensive coordinator, Jim Chaney, right? Anytime we would miss a pass, you know, if you know Chaney, you know, he loves McDonald's. He's, you know, quite a large man. And he'd come in and pretend like he was dribbling a basketball, and he'd do the old finger roll right there in meetings in front of everybody. He said, you know what that was, buddy? A layup. And you missed it. And so these right here, Drew, these are layups. You're not going to miss them.
Thank you so much. Layups, Jake Fromm says. One last time. Prize Picks 2-pick quarterback special, Punt and Pass, week 3. Download the Prize Picks app. Use the promo code PUNT. Instant $50 when you play your first $5 entry. Carson Beck, quarterback at Georgia, more than 212.5 passing yards. Jackson Dart, quarterback, Ole Miss, more than 1.5 passing touchdowns. $25 turns into $50 real quick. So that's $100 right there. Instant 50 on the sign up with Punt, the promo code. $50 additional dollars when that $25 entry with Carson Beck and Jackson Dart hits. So thank you, Prize Picks. All right, let's go inside the 5. We talked about it to start the show. We'll start our picks right here. Primetime ABC, 7:30 p.m. kickoff. Our buddy Sean McDonough and Greg McElroy are back in the booth. Number 1, Georgia at Kentucky. Jake, the Dogs are a 24-point favorite. The over-under here is 45.5 points. Georgia looks great. They had a scrimmage last week against Tennessee Tech. Kentucky looked horrible. I cannot overstate how bad they looked. South Carolina whooped them all over the place. South Carolina was a double-digit underdog and won the game by 25 points. What gives in this matchup?
Yeah, to me, there's too many things kind of adding up here. You know, 1, it's a night game on the road. And 2, it's the SEC opener here. And Kirby loves to make a statement going into SEC play. And this is just a big one. It's a big one for the Dogs. It's a big one for the guys because they're going to be itching, scratching, clawing, and they want to play a physical brand of football here. And, you know, judging by last week, Kentucky not being able to throw the football, I love Brock. I think Brock's a good dude, great player, but he's going to have a rough night, man. I think Kirby's going to have all the answers. I think Kentucky's offense is going to be playing checkers, and I think Kirby's going to be playing chess there on defense, and it's going to be a tough and long night for Kentucky moving the football. Dogs all day long. Give me 31 points.
Go. Yeah. So you're laying that 24 points, right? I mean, there's just no doubt about it. And look, you know how I feel about Kentucky if you've listened to Punt and Pass over the years. Oftentimes, Georgia gets to meet Kentucky at a very important part of the season where Kentucky's been playing very well. Their schedule has been relatively easy. They've got a lot more wins than losses. There's a chance where if they upset the Dogs, they win the SEC East. They've had great running backs in the past. They've had, you know, promising quarterbacks in the past. And folks, this is just not that year.
Nope.
Okay. This is just not that year. I always love to say that after Georgia wallops Kentucky, it's basketball season in Lexington. And that usually comes around late October, sometimes in November. But guys, it's September and it's early September. And you just got shellacked by South Carolina at home a week ago, a primetime spot. 3:30 p.m., ABC, and you fell flat on your face. You have no offensive line. That's not a good recipe to overcome the Georgia Bulldogs. Your defensive line isn't really that scary either. South Carolina, which looked abysmal in week 1. Yeah, they ran it up and down the field on you guys. Carson Beck is going to pick this team apart. Georgia's going to be able to run the ball at will. Brock Vandagriff, God bless him, going to be running for his life all game long. This will be a complete feast, okay? This will be an epic beatdown, okay? I'm just calling it right now. I feel like Kirby Smart has an opportunity in this game to really make a statement, because guess who the one coach is in the SEC that is longer tenured at his current job than Kirby Smart is at Georgia? That'd be Mark Stoops at Kentucky, okay? Mark Stoops has not had much success against Kirby Smart. Has he kept a couple of games relatively close? I mean, I guess so. Has it ever really been in doubt? No. This is an ass kicking. I mean, I don't know what other ways to say it. Okay. I've gone out on a limb like this a few times in the past. And, in my media career of now 8 years, some people have oftentimes told me, like, you're too biased towards Georgia. And to that, I say bullshit, because in the last 8 years, if you pick Georgia almost every game, you're doing pretty well. I mean, they've lost 2 games in the last 3 years. This is a statement game. Georgia, Carson Beck, that offense physically dominates Kentucky. Kentucky's offense has no chance to do much at all against Georgia. And I feel like people aren't really talking about the fact that Georgia has not allowed a touchdown in their last 3 games. They beat Florida State 63-3. They beat Clemson 34-3. They beat Tennessee Tech 48-3. I don't know if Kentucky scores a touchdown. It could go to 4 games. This is going to be a fun one to watch. Get everybody off the benches. Make sure they can get on the field. I mean, you only can dress 85 for a road SEC game, but everybody's getting playing time in Lexington on Saturday night. Dogs win huge, and it is officially basketball season in Lexington, Kentucky. Any questions?
Wow. No, that's good. Has that ever been done 4 games in a row without giving up a touchdown?
Coach, I don't know.
I'd love to know. If anybody would reach out to us, drop a comment, let us know. I mean, I'd love to know that. I mean, I feel like that is an incredible feat to be able to do that.
Yeah,
just
totally right.
Especially in today's football, today's college football.
No question. Absolutely.
When Ole Miss is outscoring folks 120-10.
Crazy. You're totally right. It's absolutely crazy. All right, so Jake and I both laying 24 points there with the Dogs, expecting a big outcome for Georgia in Lexington. How about this noon game, a little SEC Big Ten action? Number 4, Alabama heads to Madison to take on Wisconsin. 12 p.m. kickoff on Fox. Alabama, a 16-point favorite. The over-under here set at 50.5 points.
Yeah, I mean, Alabama needs to respond. They had that scare last week, and I know the score doesn't show it, but that was a 14-13 one-score game with 6 minutes left to go in the fourth quarter. Call it. I mean, this was a tight, close game, a scare. Should not have happened. Nick Saban was in the house, made it even worse. They were honoring him, calling it Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium. Kind of embarrassing, especially with the way they came out just clicking in game 1. So they're going to be looking to respond. Wisconsin has not played anybody yet.
No.
WMU, South Dakota, and both these games relatively close, 28-14, 27-13. This could get ugly. All Alabama has to do is wake up early, drink some caffeine, and they'll take care of business and ride off into the sunset.
Yeah, not turn the ball over. Tyler Van Dyke, the former quarterback at Miami, he's now the starting quarterback at Wisconsin. That's something to note. Keep in mind, Luke Fickell, head coach at Wisconsin, he was the head coach at Cincinnati.
Yep.
When Cincinnati took on Alabama in the college football playoff back in 2021. These two teams last met in 2015. That was the season opener in Arlington, Texas, inside Jerry World. Alabama won that game 35-17. Alabama's first trip to Madison, Wisconsin since 1928. It's their first Big Ten road game since 2011. How about this? Bama has won 9 straight road openers, but they're 0-5 against the spread in their last 5 road openers. So Interesting. Speaking of Alabama, Spencer, our producer and research extraordinaire, he's chiming in saying in 2017, talking about Georgia not allowing touchdowns, Alabama didn't allow a touchdown in 17 straight quarters. So that's 3.5 games.
16 divided by 4 would be
yeah. Wow. 4 games. Thank you.
Going into the 5th game. So
it's
no
late.
math majors here. Finance, maybe if that counts. But
yeah. Sorry. That's embarrassing.
Trying to help a fellow out there.
4,
Sorry.
It's 4 games. That's 4 games in 1 quarter. Thank you, Jake. Hey, listen, this is a football podcast. We're here to entertain, okay? Speaking of that, Alabama, I'll lay the 16 points as well. Jalen Milroe, just don't turn the ball over.
That's it.
Kalen DeBoer, a little bit embarrassed after the slow start and letting South Florida hang around. Again, this comes down to the Jimmies and the Joes. The atmosphere should be electric. There's no doubt about that. But this is kind of a interesting line because you would think with it being in Camp Randall, SEC Big Ten, maybe the line was a little bit smaller, but Vegas put it out there pretty big at 16. I'll trust them. I'll lay the 16 with Alabama. So Jake and I are on the same side there. All right, let's go to that college game day game. 16th ranked LSU heading to Willie B to take on South Carolina. This game's at noon on ABC. LSU is a 7-point favorite. The total here is 50.5 points.
Yeah. We talked a lot about Carson throwing 5 touchdowns, off to a great start. You know who threw for 6 touchdowns last week? That is LSU quarterback Garrett Nussmeier.
Yeah.
6 touchdowns. He's feeling it. He's on a roll. LSU had that very disappointing loss in week 1. I think this is a good football team in the making. They're just right there on that line. They're teetering with it. How good do we want to be? And I think this is a go in there, make a statement win, say, you know what? Hey, we are a good football team. We know we are, and we want our shot into the college football playoff. This is exactly what this is. Starting off with South Carolina SEC play, all those things kind of going and coming together at the right time. And I think Garrett's going to rattle off another great performance from the quarterback position.
LSU has a really good offensive line, but this Dylan Stewart kid, we talked about him on Monday, this pass rusher, 5-star elite freshman for South Carolina. Like, how do you scheme for that? Do you just bring the tight end in? Do you have the wide receiver kind of chip block him to start the game? I mean, this kid is a freaking stud athlete.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways. One, you gotta mess with him in the run game. You got to find creative ways to get physical with him, because what's he there to do, right? He wants to make the splash plays.
Oh yeah.
And sack the quarterback, right? So you gotta crack him on some crack tosses. You gotta run right at him in these wide and inside zone schemes. You gotta trap him. You gotta kick him out. With the guard or with a tackle in some gap schemes. And then the pass game, you're gonna slide to him every single time. Doesn't matter. Hey, you could have one guy coming from the other side. Doesn't matter. We're gonna slide to him. We're gonna chip him. We're going to get the ball out fast, and then we're going to be very, very strategic in timing when we take our deep shots.
Gotcha. I like that. We'll see if LSU and Garrett Nussmeier can do that. Just found a disturbing trend for South Carolina. The Gamecocks had lost 9 straight SEC home openers until last year's win over Mississippi State. They were 2-7 against the spread in those SEC home openers. That's exactly what this is coming up against LSU. It's the first time these two teams have played since 2008 in Columbia.
Yeah, honestly, that was going to be a question I was about to ask. When's the last time LSU went to South Carolina?
It says 2008 when the Tigers won 24-17. I'm getting this from Phil Steele. So, look, I love the Dylan Stewart kid. Shane Beamer, has he had a lot of hallmark victories against top-tier opponents? Has he? I mean, he had the Tennessee win. And he had the Clemson win, but we talked about this. Remember the very interesting connections between potentially Connor Stallions and the sign stealing? I mean, we went through this seasons ago, how there were some loose connections to the coincidences, if you want to call it, of South Carolina beating Tennessee and then Clemson, because Michigan was scouting Clemson and Tennessee because that was going to be one of their potential matchups in the playoff. Look, I digress. Shane Beamer, good on you. I'll lay the 7 here with LSU as well. That's 3 straight favorites for me. That does not happen often.
No, man.
You know what?
It's about favorites last week, Coach. It's
You
gonna
know
be
what?
favorites this week.
You
No,
know
you
what?
can't do it. Are
Yes,
you
I am.
you jumping ship?
I just felt it. It's this Dylan Stewart kid. I can't get out. I cannot get him out of my head. This kid is a freaking animal. I'm taking the 7 points. I'm taking the 7 points.
Ran the ball well last week.
There you go. Give me the 7 points. South
That's
Carolina plus 7 at home. I mean, those fans are insane. Hopefully they wake up early enough, get inside the building. So, look, I just switched it at the last 7. I'm taking the points. I think LSU wins, but it's a close one. Jake, you laid the 7 with LSU. All right, here's the top 25 matchup. We can kind of move quick. Get on out of here. We got 2 games left. Number 24, Boston College. At number 6, Missouri. How about this kickoff time? 12:45 p.m. on SEC Network. Mizzou, a 17-point favorite. The total here is 53.5 points. Missouri's the 6th-ranked team in the nation, Jake.
They are quietly the 6th-ranked team in the nation. I think 17 points is a lot of points.
It is.
But
that
you know
really
what they're
jumped
doing?
out to me.
You know what they're doing right now? We just said South Carolina ran the football well. Missouri is absolutely toting that rock right now, and they're putting their team success behind this run game. Their quarterback Cooks, he's playing well, but he's playing well because of the run game. And if they can do that successfully in this game, there's no reason they shouldn't. SEC football should, in theory, have bigger guys up front, have a little bit better in the trenches, bigger, faster, stronger. However, I think Boston College is going to be very good, coached up, schemed very well to a T. That's the only thing scaring me, but I'm heavy on the favorites.
Oh, you're still rolling with the favorites. My goodness, Jake Fromm. Hey, when in Rome. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. You mentioned Boston College scheming up. Bill O'Brien's a hell of a football coach.
Great football coach.
I mean, the guy knows what the hell he's doing. You know, we could talk about Florida State, but Boston College came into Florida State, absolutely manhandled them. Their quarterback, Castellanos, he can run. Castellanos, he can get outside the pocket. He can make it happen. I think Boston College, well, first off, the line jumped out at me like crazy. I'm like, okay, why is Missouri giving 17 points? Like, what? So immediately I'm like, well, then of course you take Boston College. Like, of course you take Boston College. And then you sit back and you think to yourself, that's what they want me to think.
Exactly.
That's what they want me to think. People, we're not just picking winners and losers here. Any schmuck can do that. This is punt and pass. We're getting into it.
We're in the weeds.
I'm laying the 17 points with Missouri here. It's a great coaching matchup. Eli Drinkwitz, who is a quote-unquote, air quotes here, offensive guru. He's had success everywhere he's been. Brady Cook can sling it. Yes, I think they miss Cody Schrader throughout the year. Cody Schrader was their running back. That kid was an absolute beast last year. Yes, Mizzou can run the ball. That kid could take over games. Luther Burden, be somebody. This is your opportunity to cement yourself as a top-tier elite wide receiver, first-round draft pick. Go up against Boston College. I mean, am I going to sit here and lie to you and tell you that I've scouted Boston College's secondary? Of course not, but I've seen him play a little bit. All I hear about is Luther Burden. Brady Cook can spin it. 17 seems like way too many points, so for that reason, I'll lay them with Missouri. We'll take in the favorite there. All right, last game. Texas A&M making their way to the Swamp. 3:30 p.m. kickoff on ABC. A&M's a 3.5-point favorite. The total here is 46.5. And our boy Billy Napier, he's coming out and saying he's probably going to use 2 quarterbacks, Graham Mertz and DJ Lagway. To that, I say I'm not a big fan.
I'm not a huge fan of the 2 quarterback system as well.
Yes.
Tried to a little bit in part there. A little bit of my time there at Georgia. Wasn't a big fan. Texas A&M. I just don't see how Florida puts it together, and I feel like they're coming apart and they're trying to patch it together with Band-Aids, and it's just not going to work. I think we need a whole air cast here, and we need to cut it off, and we need a new leg. We need something. We need something new. We need something fresh. And is
that just a total redo, or is that just you go straight with Lagway? Like, what's the answer? It's week 3, dude.
It's early. It's early, but something's got to give. I want to see something different, and I want to feel it through the screen. And for that reason, I'm out. So give me Texas A&M.
Little Shark Tank action there from Jake Fromm. The last time A&M played in the Swamp was 2017. The Aggies were held to 80 yards in the first half, but only trailed 10-3. They were down 17-16, and they got a go-ahead 32-yard field goal to win by 2. Yeah, I mean, Connor Weigman, he's got to step up and have a big game. There's no doubt about it. Too many question marks around Florida, like too much outside noise. I agree. How do you come together as a team when that kind of shit is hitting the proverbial fan? Like everybody's hearing it. It's all anybody talks about. Now you add the QB controversy and drama into the mix as well. It's just not good, Coach. The only way you can really quell that is by winning and stacking games. And unfortunately for Florida, their schedule is very tough. So it's fractured, and it will continue to be fractured. And I don't see how bouncing quarterbacks will create any sort of consistency to get the team to march into one direction. Florida loses by 3. Give me Florida +3. It's the grossest bet ever. I know it's disgusting. I'm making myself sick just thinking about it, but you got a home dog? A home dog? Show some heart, Florida, for once. You made me look like an idiot when I took you against Miami. I said, just give me the points. I said Miami was going to win. I mean, you got absolutely boat raced out of your own stadium, but I'm taking Florida +3.5. It's because of that little half, the dot, and then the 5. That's a hook, Jake, like a fishing hook. I see you got your Georgia Outdoor Network hat on. It's like a fishing hook. I'm going to hook this win. They will lose by 3, and I win the bet. So that's that.
You heard it here first. Drew Butler, the math guy.
Yes, exactly. I cemented myself as the math guy. All right, man. Well, that was fun. Week 3 is here. Hope everybody enjoyed. Be sure to follow us on social media at Punt and Pass on X and Instagram. I'm at Drew Butler. He's at From Jake. puntandpass.com. Please download the Prize Picks app. It's the best daily fantasy sports platform in the country. They will give you $50 instantly when you use the promo code PUNT when you sign up. Just play your first $5 entry. It doesn't even have to win. How sick is that? Prize Picks is awesome. All you have to do is predict if 2 or 6 players will go more or less than their stat projection. You can watch the winnings roll in, win 10x your money. I gave you my QB special 2-pick entry in the middle of the show. We'll post that on our social media as well. Jake, anything on the way out, my man?
No, man, I think we hit it. It's going to be a great week.
We did hit it, dude. That was, I give us an A for the show. I give my math skills like a D. That was not good.
Hey, but your Prize Picks,
yes,
were fantastic. A+.
Absolutely. All right. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Thank you, Spencer, our awesome producer, James, our intern. You guys are a huge help. Have a great weekend, everybody. We will talk to you on Monday. See ya.
We out.